Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of the AAA Hole podcast. I, of course, am your AAA Hole Death Witch, and as usual, is my co-host, Ozzy the Aussie, straight from Australia. Say hey to everybody, Ozzy.
G'day, mates.
There he is. So, we're just going to dive right into it, because I'm going to go ahead and say it up front. This isn't solely about Google Stadia. I know we did a lot of coverage of that over the last couple episodes of the podcast, but it has
just one or two.
Yeah, just a few. But it has kind of led into this. So with the announcement of some more subscription-based gaming services coming out within the next year or so, Apple's announced one, Google's announced yet another one, aside from Stadia. They're doing one just for their mobile department. It had me thinking that the subscription-based gaming thing may very well be the future of gaming. It's damn sure where they seem to be pushing the industry for the next generation of consoles, for the next generation of gaming. I mean, right now, off the top of my head, you've got the likes of Xbox offering you the Game Pass, and then combining that with their online multiplayer with Game Pass Ultimate, and you can play on PC or Xbox, and they're throwing their new releases like Gears 5 in there. And then you've got PlayStation still doing PlayStation Now, which took a huge percentage of the market share for 2018, over half at 52%. So a ton of people offering roughly the same kind of service, but they don't advertise theirs as well. But you can pretty much do the same thing with PlayStation Now. You can do with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. You can download the PlayStation Now app on PC and play any game on the PlayStation Now service directly on your PC. But they're a streaming / downloadable service, whereas Game Pass is just download. So it's interesting that they took over half the market share for 2018 and they offer streaming service, but then when something like Google is announced, everybody says no one wants a streaming service. This is that research I was referring to in previous episodes of the podcast when I said that Google's done the research. The numbers don't lie. And it's made over $1 billion in 2018. PlayStation Now wasn't even that well advertised, and streaming was still kind of a niche thing, and it made over $1 billion as a niche thing. So with subscriptions becoming the norm, and a streaming service like PlayStation Now taking the majority of the market share in the subscription-based market, I see why Google went all in on streaming-based service. The numbers didn't lie there. And then on top of that, you've got Uplay offering theirs with Uplay Plus, which I've tried out. EA has Origin Access and the Premier, so it's got two different subscription services. And on top of that, they just recently did a surprise, technical test for their own streaming service, which I participated in. I couldn't stream it. They had the whole NDA thing. Not even technically supposed to talk about it, but the test is over. What are they going to do? Tell me I can't participate now, so fuck it. I guess you just have to sue me because I'm going to talk about it. So that technical test only had a handful of games in it that you could play for free as part of the technical test, but it was streaming gaming. And I tried it from several different devices. Tried it from my gaming PC, which I expected to run well, and it did. And then I tried it from an old laptop running an i3 with only 4 gig of RAM and just a shitty video card. A computer that can't handle Photoshop, but could handle game streaming services like EA streaming services. I use it to play games from my library on Steam using NVIDIA's GeForce Now on that laptop, which I've been impressed with the way it handles it. I played No Man's Sky on it, and this laptop that takes 10 minutes to start up and won't even open Photoshop is playing No Man's Sky, streaming it. So I see the merit for a streaming service, and I can see why Google went all in there. And I'm gonna, Nintendo, I'm including it as a subscription-based gaming service, even though you're technically paying for online multiplayer. I feel like more people with a Nintendo Switch are subscribing to Nintendo's online service for the offline features, such as the cloud saving, and the big one being the retro games. All those retro games are included with your subscription.
That's what I do it for.
Yeah, so I feel like more people are subscribing to get access to the retro games than are actually subscribing to play, Splatoon online or the few games Nintendo has online.
Especially since the Super NES stuff have just come in.
Oh yeah, they know what they've got. But the point here being that so many services are leaning more towards the subscription base for the future of gaming. I mean, those are just the ones off the top of my head. You've got Apple Arcade coming for the mobile market, and then Google Play Store is doing one for the mobile market. Then you've got your streaming services, and I know it doesn't get a lot of press attention, but I do VR, and the HTC Vive has a subscription-based service it's had since the day I got it a year ago that I never see reported on. But yeah, you pay a monthly fee and you get access to a bunch of VR games. So these subscription-based services just seem to be where the money's at. It seems to be where they're leaning towards and where they're pushing the market towards. And the question is this a good thing or a bad thing? Because I have had more than one argument with a friend of mine in real life, because he absolutely hates the subscription-based model. He doesn't want to have to do a subscription-based model, and then I get it. It's daunting when you start listing off all the different subscriptions that you would have to subscribe to if you wanted to get all of these games. But it's like I tell people with TV, when they start adding up, Netflix and Disney Plus and Hulu and, CBS All Access, and they start adding up all these subscription-based streaming services for television, they go, well, at that price, I might as well just keep my cable package. I'm like, well, yeah, but you're not supposed to subscribe to them all every month. They're not contracted subscription services. That's the point, is you can cancel anytime. So the idea is you look over the library of whichever one has the most you want to watch that month and decide that I'm going to dedicate this month to, Marvel and Disney shows. And I'm going to subscribe to Disney service. I'm going to watch the Fox television shows. I'm going to watch the Disney shows. I'm going to watch the Marvel shows. And I'll take a break from Netflix or whatever. And then you cancel it. You pay the subscription, immediately cancel it so you don't end up with a bill where they just keep canceling. You subscribe and then immediately cancel. They still give you the month you subscribed for. They just won't auto-charge you for the next one. And then that same day every month, you switch it up. Now, that's a little harder to do with television because you consume TV content that people consume a wider range of TV content on a more frequent basis. Your TV shows last 30 minutes to an hour. You can consume a lot more of those. Whereas a game may last you 6 hours, may last you 10 hours, may last you 100 plus hours. And, if you're getting a big game like Zelda Breath of the Wild or big RPG. But you're not supposed to subscribe to all of these gaming services at once. You're not supposed to have a subscription to Uplay. You're not supposed to have a subscription to PlayStation Now and Xbox Game Pass and Nintendo Online and EA Origins Access and Nvidia streaming service and Google streaming service. You're not supposed to have a subscription to all of them. It's more of an a la carte experience where, for instance, this month, Gears came out. Gears 5 came out.
Yeah, I was just going to say that remember that you only have limited time to actually do stuff, and you spend half your time sleeping, so...
Yeah.
And then you got work and all of that, so cut that in half again, and yeah, that's probably about the time you have to... Even if you're basically a single guy who can do whatever he wants in his free time, you've only got maybe 4 or 5 hours a day, or maybe 6 at the tops, to actually play games.
Yeah, I mean,
and you're not going to play everything in 6 hours.
Even if you're a kid who still lives at home with mom and dad, and you've got way more time than that. Let's say you've got 12 hours a day, where you come home from school and you've got until bedtime to play, and you've got 12 hours there. And then you catch a little, 4 or 5 hours sleep, and then you go back to school. You're young, you can afford to do that. And then you've got your weekends where you can just sit at home and play video games all day. Even doing that, there's still a finite amount of time you have. And some of these games demand all of it. I mean, if you jumped on Google Stadia on day one, which they're including with their subscription, Destiny 2, Destiny 2 alone will demand all of your time. It doesn't want you to stop playing it. You know, games like Destiny, those live service games, they don't want you to stop playing them. And that's not even including the free-to-play stuff. You could just jump in and play like Warframe. But the argument I got from my friend about why he would need those multiple subscriptions is because he's got multiple friends on multiple platforms. And one day he may want to play with his buddy on Xbox, so he'll need Xbox Game Pass to get Gears 5 or whatever Xbox game he's trying to get. And he doesn't own an Xbox, and he doesn't own a PlayStation, so he would have to use the subscription service, because if you use the subscription service, you can play those games on PC. I play Gears 5 on my PC. And as I aforementioned, if you have PlayStation Now, there's a PlayStation Now app for PC. You can play any PlayStation game without a PlayStation by subscribing to PlayStation Now and playing it on your PC. So he would have to do that. And then he's like, well, what if I want to play with you on, your PS4 today, but then tomorrow I want to play with my other friend on Xbox. And then I might want to play with, one of my other buddies who's, using NVIDIA streaming service or using Google streaming service, and I got to get that one. Or maybe they're playing or maybe there's an EA game I want to play and an Ubisoft game I want to play, and I don't want to have to wait a month to play the Ubisoft game. But the Ubisoft game and the EA game came out in the same month, so now I got to subscribe to both of those in 1 month and play them both. And I kind of see his point there, but it's more going to be a lesson in self-control. And I think that's going to be the most interesting part of this little experiment, is the lesson in self-control. Because right now, the self-control for most people when it comes to gaming is budget. I can tell you that from experience right now, that the reason I am not swamped with like 5 different games right now to play is because I don't have the money to buy them all. I've been playing games off my Xbox Games Pass because I don't have the money right now to spare to buy that brand new copy of, the remake of Legend of Zelda. I don't have the money to buy Borderlands 3. I don't have the money to buy, what else came out this month? I wouldn't have the money to buy Gears 5 if it wasn't part of the Game Pass. I wouldn't have had the money to buy that. I still got to buy the expansion for Destiny 2 that's going to be out in a week.
You said Borderlands?
Yeah, I said Borderlands. I feel like there's something else I've missed. I mean, this is
can't think of anything. Yeah,
September through December, or those months where just everything starts coming out at once, and I'd have to put.
Well, you got Pokemon coming out next month.
Yeah, got Pokemon next month, and then I got.
Well, month after, I should say. We're still not quite out of September yet.
Yeah, but you got Pokemon coming. Stadia launching, so then I gotta be able to buy Stadia if I want to play my Stadia games. I got the expansion for Destiny 2 coming. Fuck, I might as well pull up the new release list and see what's coming out here. First of all, let's pull up September game releases. Pull those up real quick. Okay, so it's just according to GameSpot. Video game releases for September. You got Borderlands 3, Gears 5. All right, so I'm just gonna go through the ones that I would want to play. I got Borderlands 3, Gears 5, River City Girls, Dragon Quest 11.
Hold on, I gotta take this. Young Money Buggy, Sweetie speaking.
Oh my God. Why is there a fucking ad playing with audio? Fucking go to hell, GameSpot. I hate that shit. All right. Anyway, sorry about that, listeners, with the random talking ad. Those should be outlawed. Anyway, so I would want Borderlands 3, Gears 5, River City Girls, Dragon Quest 11. I'm going to skip all the sports games. What else do we got? Did they give me just a list? Yeah, Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. Oh, there we go. There's the full list. Let's see. Oh, I don't think Final Fantasy VIII Remastered. I could skip on that one. The Spyro Reignited trilogy I would have liked to get. Monster Hunter World had an expansion, so if you played that, you would need to pick up that. Castle Crashers Remastered is another one I want. Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch, which I never played, but that's been remastered, so I'd want to play that. Let's see. And of course, I mentioned Dragon Quest. Dragon Quest 11, Gunvolt Chronicles. So that was just from September. If we change that up, so we got October.
And then, of course, there's also all the backlog stuff like Dragon Quest Builders 2. Now,
I mean,
I'd possibly want to look at Astral Chain.
Yeah, there's a lot. And here, if we look at October, some more stuff I'm gonna have to buy here. Let's see, Destiny 2, Shadowkeep, of course. The Ghostbusters, the video game, is getting a remaster. So if you wanted that, new Ghost Recon is coming out. Overwatch on Switch. I'm trying not to go with stuff that's already came out. Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
No one cares about Overwatch.
Yeah, Call of Duty Modern Warfare. The Outer Worlds is coming out in October. The remake of Medieval, which I would want. Luigi's Mansion 3, Yakuza 4. So there's a list right there. There's so much good stuff coming out that budget becomes. I'm curious for November, but budget becomes what has kept most people from having this large library and this stuff that they can't afford to play, and reason why they don't, why they tend to stick with one game, or why they pick their games wisely, because they don't have the money to buy all of these games to keep up with these release schedules. Like just for PS4 for November, you've got stuff like Death Stranding, the new Need for Speed, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, Doom Eternal, the new Sniper, Shimmune 3. Jesus. It's a freaking lot. That's just PS4. Coming to Nintendo Switch in November. You've got Pokemon Sword and Shield, Doom 64, which I would want, Layton's Mystery Journey, which is supposed to be good. Just Dance, if you're a Dance fan. What about Xbox coming out in November? Of course, same stuff there. The Sniper, Doom Eternal, Jedi Fallen Order, Need for Speed. Anything for... They didn't list PC for some reason. IGN, again, sucks. Alright. But anyway, that's why I'm curious to see what people would play then with these subscription services. Because that's what you find a lot, is that when you subscribe to a service like Game Pass, and I can say this from experience, that I have played quite a few games on Xbox Game Pass that I otherwise would have never played, because I wouldn't have spent money on a gamble. Some of them were gambles. They were games that looked interesting, but not interesting enough for me to pay money for. But since they were, included, why not play them? I beat Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, which is one I would have paid money for anyway, and probably still will buy just to support the development of that game, because it is amazing. But after that, I played, I've downloaded and I'm now working my way through Crosscode, which is a 2D-esque RPG. It's 2D with some 3D segments in it, but it's got that old school kind of RPG Zelda feel to it. It's really good. Really good. It's like a mix between Legends of Zelda and Final Fantasy. It's got the robust story of Final Fantasy with the action combat style of Legends of Zelda, and it's a really good game that I probably wouldn't have paid money for, simply because it's an unknown developer, it's an unknown game, and it was $20.
Oh yeah, so that's actually good, is it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's pretty good.
I'd looked at it.
It's supposed to be coming out on Switch this month or next month, pretty soon. But it's already out on Game Pass. So
I thought it was already out, actually.
No, I searched for it on Switch because I would much rather have it on the Switch. I played enough of it on Game Pass to go, before I get too deep into this game, I want to buy it on my Switch so I can play it on the go, because it's perfectly suited for that on the go kind of gaming. And it's not out yet. I think it said October, November. Late October, early November timeframe. I don't know why it got delayed on Switch, but yeah, it's pretty good. And another good one I played on Xbox Game Pass, Void Bastards, which gained quite a bit of popularity only because of the fact that it was included in Game Pass. It actually made the top 10 viewed games on Twitch for a while when it first launched because of Game Pass, because so many people had Game Pass that they wanted to play it. So I'd be curious to see how people handle their time and handle their gaming when now they don't have the restriction of, oh, well, I only have 3 games to choose from to play for the next month or 2 because I'm too broke to buy another game. Without that restriction anymore. You know, taking those shackles off and saying, well, here's 200 games, take a fucking pick, man. You know, or throw me another $15 and you can subscribe to another gaming service and have another 200 games on their service. Just that level of access to games. I'd be curious to see, A, how it affects gamers and their gaming habits. Would people be less likely, like, can we see a return to form of the Bloodstained kind of game? Because playing Bloodstained, I realized how much I miss that kind of gaming. As much as I like Destiny and the amount of time I spend with it, I do miss my gaming experience kind of matching my Netflix experience. So with Netflix and television shows, you consume the show. The show eventually has, the show or movie has an end, and then you move on and watch something else. You don't watch the same show forever. Even those shows that feel like they go on forever, you can still see every episode, and eventually you run out of episodes to watch, and then you move on and watch something else. You know, even with as long as the MCU has been around, you could watch all of those movies in a month. And then what? You've seen all of the MCU. Well, then you move on and watch something else. We don't do that with gaming anymore. It doesn't feel like. Like, Bloodstained was a game that I just played nonstop almost. It was like a good book, couldn't put it down. I played it nonstop for I think the game clocked me at just over 40 hours. And I got 100% map completion. Like, I did everything I could do in the game without starting a second playthrough at a harder difficulty. I did everything at the standard difficulty that they throw you into just to get the full story, make sure I didn't miss any Easter eggs, and get the full experience. And it took me just over 40 hours. And I was done. And it's a game I'll go back to. I do plan to buy it and support the developer when I have the money, and I'll probably go back to it. But it, just like a television show, you watch it till it's done, and sure, great classics like The Office, you go back and watch again. You know, and it's the same way we treat retro games. Back in the day, that's how games were consumed. You played a game, you beat the game. The goal of the game was to complete the game and be finished with it. And the really good ones earn their place in history that you go back to and you beat over and over again, even though you've already done it before. A good game is when you go back and play over and over again, even after you've already beat it, because you may notice something you didn't notice before, or you just enjoy the experience enough that you want to do it again, like riding a roller coaster. You don't just ride a roller coaster once and say, well, I know what that's like now, and I don't want to do it again ever. No, sometimes a roller coaster is so fun to ride, you get off and immediately get right back in line. You want to ride it again. And that's how I like to consume my video games. I like for them to be that kind of roller coaster-like experience where it was a fun ride, but it didn't drag itself on, and it came to an end, and it left on a high note, and it earned its place in history as a classic, and I'll go back to it. And we don't get that enough now, and I'm wondering if game subscription services will favor more games like that, because now that, you know, when you have a game subscription service, you'll have access to hundreds of games for one low fee. And if this is the business model, and it definitely is the business model that the next generation of gaming seems to want to push on people, will it change people's gaming habits to that extreme? I know it's going to change them in the fact that people are going to have more games to play, because, as I mentioned, budget is the reason why I don't play more games. And I know a ton of people who don't play the games that they want to play because they don't make the amount of money needed to keep buying these games on day one at $60 a pop. But if you give them those games like Gears 5 and Game Pass for $15 a month, say, hey, here's a new release, boom, it just got added to Game Pass, enjoy. And they don't have to pay any extra money to get a new release game. Well, everybody can play the new release games on day one. Games will be more popular. They'll see a higher player base on day one and, more hype and more word of mouth. So I think
and you won't have to take risks like you would with things like Anthem.
Yeah, there's no risk involved. You wouldn't waste $60 on Anthem. And thankfully Anthem was okay, so Anthem's a great example because there were two examples here. So you can kind of compare the two communities. So Anthem was one that you could play for $15 a month and just subscribe to EA service and play it and get it as part of their subscription service. And if you didn't like it, there was no risk involved, because even if you didn't like Anthem, you subscribed to EA Access and you didn't like Anthem, you still had access to all of EA's other games for the next 30 days. So you didn't have to keep playing Anthem. It's not like you were stuck with it. You could pop in any Need for Speed you wanted. You could pop in any sports game. WWE. You could pop in, one of the Battlefields, Titanfall. They had a lot there to try. A lot there to make you feel they earned you $15. So you don't feel cheated. And the community shows that. The people mad at Anthem were the people that paid $60. There were a lot of people who were pointing out its flaws but weren't raging at it the way someone who spent $60 would rage. They didn't feel cheated. They just felt like, hey, I can give an honest opinion about this game being flawed. So the game got more honest kind of reviews from users, because a lot of those users weren't leaving a review from the perspective of this game stole my money and lied to me. Instead, they were leaving a review from the perspective of, well, I gave it a chance. Which is where you want your reviews to come from. The opposite side of that would be Fallout 76. The only way to play Fallout 76 was to give them $60. And literally everyone who bought that game left that kind of review with, oh my god, this game lied to me. This game sucks. I want my money back. In fact, that the whole refund thing was a thing for Fallout 76 for a while. People just demanding a refund because of that. So I know for a fact, and even though I say I know it for a fact, I don't know it for a fact, but I know it to be true. Let's go ahead and use the Bill Maher term. That if this subscription thing takes off during the next generation of gaming, and more gamers purchase subscriptions than purchase actual video games, and that's what's going to happen. That's what this is. It's a grand experiment. 2019 is going to be the subscription experiment year. And at the end of not 2019,
don't you mean 2020?
2020. Yeah, you're right. We're in 2019. So 2020 is going to be the grand subscription-based experiment year. All these subscriptions are going to launch, and they're going to give it a year, and they're going to try it out. And at the end of that year, they're going to check the data, and they're going to see how much money did we make off subscriptions versus how much money did we make off game sales. And if the money was in subscriptions, you're going to just see more subscriptions. More games are going to become exclusive to subscription services. I know that's going to happen. And if subscription services take off, due to the fact that people are saving so much money by not buying games at $60 a pop, my fear is you're going to see more microtransactions in games. That's going to be the downside. I mean, I can see that happen. It really depends on how these devs get paid, how they're making their money when they join a subscription service. Because from what I hear, Xbox Game Pass is pretty fair with their revenue share when it comes to putting your game on Game Pass. Like, I've read articles where multiple developers said they made more money after putting their game on Game Pass than they made from game sales before putting it on Game Pass. And they found that a lot of people played it on Game Pass and then ended up buying it anyway, just to have it in their library. Some people just wanted to do that. And Xbox pays them. They wouldn't go into specifics, but Xbox, Microsoft pays them based on number of downloads for the game or time spent in the game, etc. That kind of thing. So they go through the analytics and they basically get free advertisement because Xbox handles all the advertisement because they want to advertise the games that are in the Game Pass to get people to subscribe to it. So you get to build hype, you get free advertisement. So they get a lot of perks for being part of the Game Pass, but I'm just wondering how much money do they actually make? And would they be able to resist the urge to throw more microtransactions in to make up for the fact that we aren't making $60 per download now? Even if they get a ton more downloads, they're still getting less money per download than they'd get if they sold you the game. But on the flip side, you'd see more. I don't know. Like it's really hard to tell if the microtransactions are good because people's gaming habits. I feel like everyone's gaming habits are gonna change if they go with a subscription-based service. Because when you have access to that many games, I told you my personal habits in gaming have changed since subscribing to Xbox Game Pass. I've played games I otherwise wouldn't play, and I've been feeling rather nostalgic here lately because I've remembered that that's the way we used to game. We used to consume games like television shows and play them, beat them, and move on to another one. And with a service like Game Pass where I've got so many games sitting there at my fingertips, I feel like that's the best way to get the most out of that service is to play games like that I can play, I can beat, and then I can go, all right, delete that from my hard drive, what's next? And jump on something else. I don't want to feel like I spent $15 on a subscription-based service that offers me hundreds of games and I spent that entire subscription period playing only one game. That would feel kind of like a waste. I mean, even if that game were something like Anthem, where my choice was pay $60 for Anthem or pay $15, even though I would have saved money, I still would feel like I wasted some of that service because I didn't use it. It's a weird feeling. I mean, when I sit down and I do the math and I look at how much money I saved by not buying Anthem and how happy I am I didn't spend $60 on it, I should still be happy, even if I spent $15 and only played Anthem on Origin access for that whole month. I should still be happy because I saved $45. But I just have this weird feeling like I wasted my subscription because I only played one game when I had hundreds to choose from. It's a weird conundrum with subscription-based services, and I feel like that feeling's going to overtake a lot of gamers, and they're going to have, something like like Uplay Plus or Origin Access or Xbox Game Pass, and they're going to have whatever, PlayStation Now being the big one with over 750 games. They're going to have that at their fingertips, and they're going to play based on their mood. I feel like more people are going to play based on mood. That they'll fire up that, because I did do that with PlayStation Now. Actually, I did do that more with PlayStation Now than Game Pass, because Game Pass only has 100 games. I've been through that list 50, 60 times now, and I feel like I've already downloaded all the stuff I want on that list I want to play, and I don't feel the need to go back and look through the list anymore. I just working my way through my hard drive. But with PlayStation Now, there's so much fucking on there. It has over 750 games. It's a ridiculous amount of content that I can't count the number of times I didn't know what I wanted to play. I just felt like playing a game. For that month I was subscribed to PlayStation Now, that I'd sit down in front of my PlayStation and just start flipping through games like I flipped through shows on Netflix. I jumped into Sonic Generations for about an hour just because it felt like it. And with it being a streaming as well as a download service, a lot of those games I would just stream instead of download, and if I really enjoyed the game, I downloaded it. So I think the best way for this business model to work is doing a mixture of both, doing a mixture of downloads and streaming, and doing a mixture of subscription and purchases. Because, as I mentioned, a lot of devs said that they made more money in sales after putting their game on Game Pass. So people who had the option to play it for $15 a month were still going out and buying the game because they liked it enough on Game Pass to say, I can cancel my Game Pass, but I want to keep this game forever, so I'm going to go buy it. And then there's people like me who played PlayStation Now, and some games I didn't feel were worth my time to download and have to wait to play. I just wanted to try it out for 20, 30 minutes just to see if I like it before I downloaded it. So that having the stream option was great for that. There were a number of games that, like I said, I'm flipping through PlayStation Now like it's Netflix, and there were a number of games I'd run across that I was like, wonder what that's like. And I just hit the play button, and I don't have to wait. I don't have to download anything. I get to go ahead and just play it, and I'd give it 20, 30 minutes of my time and go, I don't like it. And then I can turn it off, and I don't have to worry about deleting anything from my hard drive. I don't have to, no time was wasted. Just jump in, jump out. And if I like the game, I can queue it up for download, go play something else while I wait. So there was a lot of that happening. So I feel like those are the big positives. I feel like that's where they're pushing it. But a lot of people fear that, loss of game ownership, which, again, I had a whole podcast about how you don't really own games to begin with now. I mean, I guess you do if you're in France, because France just passed that law where Steam has to allow their users to resell digital games in France. The right to resell, I think is what they were calling it. So I wouldn't be surprised if Steam is working on some kind of subscription-based model for its service, because if you buy a game, then you have the right to resell it in France. And I, wouldn't be surprised if more countries are going to follow suit and do that. And if more countries do follow suit and make it so that you have a right to resell digital games, then I guarantee you more games will become subscription exclusive, because you can't resell a game that's part of a subscription because you don't own the content on the subscription. Just like you can't sell a movie you watched on Netflix. You don't own the movie. You just own the subscription to the service that's providing the movie. So I think, I don't know, it's an interesting time. So my question to you, dear audience, dear listener, is how do you feel about, which you guys can chime in, there are people in chat on Twitch here watching. Thank you for watching live, and co-hosts alike. How would you want your content to be delivered to you during the next generation of gaming? Would you prefer a subscription-based service? Now, ignore streaming versus download here. We're talking specifically about a Netflix-style pay one price, get access to X number of games style service, or would you prefer buying and owning your game forever and having, my library is games I handpicked and I bought and they're mine? Which one do you prefer? Where would you want to see it go?
Honestly, I have no problem with the Netflix style thing. That was one of the things that really excited me most when they first announced the Nintendo Switch or online thing, because, I was hoping that they would do more of the Super NES stuff in the first year, but that aside, we've now got it, so that was what I was hoping for, and hoping they move forward with that, so we get N64, GameCube, those sort of things in the future. Expand it. Give the how am I trying to word this? This won't be selling games. This will be selling systems, which is what it should be looked at as, because you're only going to be especially with the Switch, you won't be being able to really especially if we go the Netflix route, reap every individual game. But you're going to be able to sell those systems like gangbusters.
Oh yeah. No, and I get what you're saying, because I subscribed and it was like mini Christmas when you subscribe to something like Nintendo's online service that provided you with those retro games. And it kind of sucks that they're not doing this once a month anymore, but that one day a month where they would release new games for the retro console, it was kind of like mini Christmas, especially the way it wouldn't show you the games immediately. You had to flip them over, and they had little mini gift wrap on them. But yeah, it was kind of like digital Christmas to get to log in and be like, oh, I got a bunch of new games that I didn't pay money for. What I get, and then you're flipping through seeing what was added. And I feel the same way with Game Pass, where I don't really pay too much attention to when stuff's coming out on Game Pass. I just subscribe to it because it has a few stuff on there already I want to play. But then every now and then I'll sign in to my Xbox, or I'll turn on my computer and I'll get that notification from Xbox Live that says this was just added to Xbox Game Pass. Like the day they added Bloodstained, I was like, oh, fucking seriously? Like, I got all excited. I was like, oh, sweet. I get to play Bloodstained now. It was a game I was going to buy anyway, you know, and boom, it was like, it was one of those pick-me-ups. It's a great feeling. And yeah, it's definitely a system seller, especially if you see games become exclusive to subscription services. And I feel that's where we're going to end up. Is we're going to end up with more subscription-based services and subscription-only games. So they're exclusive to the subscription, and there is no option to buy those games. And that's where you kind of lose me on a little bit. I think the way it works best is with having the option. Because I think that's why PlayStation Now is the most profitable game subscription service to date. Is because it gives you both options. It gives you the option to do what Xbox does and let you download your games and play them on your hard drive if you don't want to have to worry about your internet connection or your streaming experience or input lag or all those things that, you know, could be affected by your connection if it's not strong enough, or it could impact your gameplay experience. But it gives you the option to do what I like to doing, which was, I have pretty decent internet here, so I liked having that Netflix style experience when it comes to games. And, you know, just sit there on my couch and flip through a catalog and, a game looks interesting, and then fire up a game as if I own it and play it for 20, 30 minutes and then turn it off without having to wait for a download, without having to wait. It gave me, the best way I can describe it is it gave me the experience of being in a GameStop, or, you know, if you're a retro gamer, like if anyone's ever watched Angry Video Game Nerd videos, you know, like name drop or someone who doesn't need my promotion, the Angry Video Game Nerd videos where you see him just in that basement, just surrounded by wall-to-wall video games. It had that feeling. It had that feeling of being in a room filled with video games and being able to just pick one up off the shelf and play it with no strings attached anytime I want. It felt like I was just sitting in that, you know, in a game store or in someone's man cave that they had just loaded with video games that I could never afford to own that many. And just having that freedom to just flip through an entire collection and play ones I was even mildly curious about without having to wait for a download or no strings attached. Just boom, it's ready to fire up right now. That's a great feeling. But I also like the ability to download them and, you know, take them with me, play them on the go. You know, there have been plenty of times I've played, you know, that's kind of the perk to the Nintendo Switch. It's, you're not streaming, or you don't have to be connected to the internet to play those retro games that they provide. And if Nintendo does an actual streaming service, I mean, not streaming, but an actual subscription-based service, which I could totally see them doing. I think what we'd see first with Nintendo would be, because Nintendo has no problem selling its first-party games. I think with Nintendo, the first thing you'd see would be a subscription for their Nindies, for their Nintendo Indies section that they're so proud of. I could totally see them doing a subscription-based model that gives you access to all these indie titles that you otherwise may not have ever spent money on. You may not have taken the gamble on. Because I can definitely see those as a gamble. I have had buyer's remorse on Switch because I expected a certain quality of indie in their eShop because of all the articles I read about how much better it was for indies than Steam and other places. And I've been disappointed more than once, where I've spent money on a game, you know, $5-10 on an indie game on Switch, and just hated it. I'm not going to call any out by name here on the podcast, but yeah, there have been a few that are now in my library on my Switch forever that I'm never going to download and play. And if they had a, you know, $5 a month, similar to Apple Arcade or the new Google service that's launching, where I pay $5 a month and I get an access to, you know, all of these indie games on Switch, and I can play them, and if I like them, I still have the option to buy them. I'd play a lot more indie games. Like, that would be right at home on Switch. So I think the happy medium, after arguing with my friend in person, who he does most of his gaming offline. So the idea of a subscription service, he hates it. He doesn't want it. He wants to just be able to buy his games. But he's not a guy who games every day. He's not the majority of gamers. He's not a guy who games every day, and he's not a guy who even games online. You know, he's got a Switch and he's got his PC, and he games once or twice a week. You know, he games on his day off, and that's it. For people like me, I game every day. I welcome the ability to take some of that pressure off my wallet and not have to worry about, you know, buying a $60 game on the day it comes out or missing out. Or if it's a story-based game like Borderlands or, you know, Bloodstained or one of those games, it's more of an experience where you play it, you beat it, and then you're done with it, and not a live service game. I hate not having $60 to buy those games the day that they come out. Not because of the fear of missing out, of not being able to play it on day one, but because I'm always fucking worried that someone on the internet's going to fucking spoil it for me. That there'll be some plot twist in one of those games that some idiot will put in the thumbnail of his YouTube video or some shit, and I'll see it by accident. I hate that shit. Like, that's the feeling I hate. It's not the fear of missing out. I can honestly wait to play the games until they go on sale. It's idiots on the internet who might ruin it for me. A game like Destiny, where the story kind of takes a backseat to the gameplay, wouldn't be as big a deal. But a game like Borderlands, where I don't want that story ruined for me. A game like Bloodstained, that game had quite a few unexpected twists and turns in its plot that I won't ruin for people, but I wouldn't want ruined for me either. You know, so having a subscription-based service where I can play new releases on day one, no one gets their game spoiled anymore. It's the little shit like that no one takes into consideration that I would welcome with open arms. But I'd still want the ability to own and have a collection of games that would still be there after I canceled my subscription service. So I see both sides, and I hope that we still get both options. But if we went to an all subscription-based gaming option for the future of gaming, I wouldn't hate it. I see enough benefit out of it that I feel it would outweigh the negative. I feel people would be upset at first. There'd be in a bit of an adjustment period. But the money and the numbers wouldn't lie. And people would just accept it. In the same way we accepted subscriptions for playing video games online. We've been down this road before. Before Xbox 360, you didn't have to pay to play games online. That was unheard of. You paid for your internet. That was how you played games online. You didn't have to pay a online fee to Steam to play games on Steam online on your PC. That was ridiculous. You didn't have to pay to play games on PS2 or Xbox Live on the original Xbox. But when the 360 came out, well, they found a way to get more money out of people, and they hated it. And there was all that outrage, and people freaked out, and then there came the adjustment period. And now people just expect it. And they don't subscribe to Xbox Live because they want the free games Xbox Live gives you once a month. Those hadn't always been there. Those are fairly new. Those are just a bonus. The same thing with PlayStation Plus. I mean, yeah, you get 2 free games a month with PlayStation Plus. I have a large collection because of that. But I didn't subscribe to PlayStation Plus to get those free games. They're usually old games or games I'm not interested in playing anyway. I subscribe to PlayStation Plus because I want to play my games online. And because I want the cloud storage. Cloud backup. But we accept it. We accept that those things that should be free, we now pay for. So I feel that it's going to be the same thing with gaming. That people they'll hate it at first. They'll hate the subscription-based gaming at first.
People will bitch and moan,
and then they'll
eventually,
adapt.
Yeah.
there's a ton of examples in gaming where that's happened, where people hate it the way something changed, and they hate it the way something worked, and then they got used to it, and now it's their preferred way to do it.
Just look at the Switch, for example. Remember when they first announced that the Switch Online was coming, and you'd have to pay to actually play on it and play online and all that?
Oh yeah.
When was the last time you heard someone actually complain about that?
Yeah, they got over it.
We've all adapted.
Quickly. Yeah, they got over it fairly quickly. I mean, there's a ton of examples of people just getting used to things. When season passes first came out, for instance, people hated those. People hated DLC when it first came out because, that's stuff that used to be in the game. Costumes used to be an unlock, and now we got to pay for them. And now people download a new game and immediately ask, what's in the first round of DLC? Can I buy a season pass? Yeah, there's still people who hate it. There's always going to be people who hate something. But it's reached a level where we complain about it, but we accept it and still do it. Like a lot of things in life that we complain about but still do, like waiting in line at the DMV. We all complain about it, but we know it's this thing that we have to do. So we just accept that it's part of life and we just do it because we have to. And that's where we are with season passes. You can hate them all you want, but they're not going away. So you might as well just accept them as part of the experience. Season passes and DLC are just a thing now. And they're not going to stop being a thing, no matter how much you don't want them to be a thing. Some stuff, yes, you should fight back for and shouldn't be a thing for a multitude of reasons, like loot boxes. But things that help support the developer and give you good content. Now, when I say season passes for DLC, I mean actual DLC, like Borderlands does DLC. Not like Dead or Alive does DLC and gives you costumes and that's it. But that's still going to be a thing. But at least with the subscription-based service, you didn't spend $60 on the game before being asked to pony up for DLC. So, which I'm wondering if maybe that'll be another way subscriptions are done. See, there's so many options and ways that you could do this. If there'd be tiered subscriptions, like a base level subscription for $9 a month, $10 a month, would get you the base copies of games, or you could get the ultimate subscription, which gives you the ultimate editions of games, which come with the DLC included. So then you don't have to buy the DLC separate. It's included in your monthly subscription, if you're willing to pay more for that monthly subscription. Because I'm sitting here thinking about it, that would kind of feel like wasted money to me if I spent money on DLC for a game I don't own. Because I own the DLC, but I don't own the game I bought it for. It's kind of a weird spot to be in. So I feel like having tiered subscription models so that I can, beat my games and then a bunch of DLC comes out for a few games I've already beaten, and I can go back and replay them and pay an extra $5 that month to play their DLC instead of having to buy all that DLC separately. That'd be a cool way to do it. It's because of all the options you could have with the subscription-based model that I don't see them. A, I don't see them going away, and B, I see people totally adapting to them. The question that remains for everyone listening is, how should we adapt to them? Because we do find ourselves, with the year 2020, vote with your wallet, because this is how your voice is going to be heard. Those numbers don't lie, and we're, as gamers, we're in the unique position to decide how we want these subscriptions to be done. We're in the unique position to reshape the gaming industry and the gaming market by saying what subscriptions and what business practices are acceptable, what we're willing to accept. So, if they start flooding games with DLC and microtransactions to make up for the cheap subscription costs, do not buy any of those microtransactions or DLC, as much as you may want to play them. Resist the urge and don't buy them. And after a few months of people not buying them, then they'll probably change their business model and go, well, hey, what if we gave you a higher subscription price but included DLCs for games? And if you agree with that and say, yeah, I'll do that, but I won't buy the DLCs, then do that. Vote with your wallet and do that. Pay that higher subscription fee and enjoy all that DLC that you waited on, that you held out for, because you should hold out. If you don't agree with something, as much as you may want to play that game, you have to resist the urge. You have to put your principles above your wants and wait. And if you wait long enough, I promise you they'll change their market strategy, because that's what they're doing with this next year. They're testing the waters. They're seeing what works and what don't work. And the only way they're going to know that isn't by how loud you scream on Reddit, by how many YouTube videos you make. The only way that they're going to get that information and that they're going to listen to, the only language they speak, is one that involves a lot of dead presidents. Vote with your wallet. But for now, guys, that's where I'm going to call the podcast. We're coming up on an hour here. Thank you for those who left comments and were a part of the discussion. If you're listening to it or watching the video on YouTube and you weren't here for the live discussion, shoot me an email. Let me know what you think. I'll read these comments on next week's episode, and we'll take this. I'm interested to see where this discussion goes, because there's so many different ways that this can affect gaming, and there's probably a lot I haven't even thought of yet, and I'm sure that you guys will be happy to tell me about them. So thanks for listening. Thank you for putting me in your ear hole, for taking me on your morning commute and listening to this AAA hole bitch about the AAA gaming industry for just a minute or two. For now, I'm going to go play some Gears 5 and enjoy my Game Pass for just a little bit longer. I will see you wonderful witches next week. Thanks for listening. I'll see you guys later. Say goodbye to everybody else.
See you guys.